This morning, we'll be recognizing members of the Division of Public Safety as well as members of the public for their outstanding accomplishments during the second half of 2018. I would now like to call the Acting Director of Public Safety, Michael Honicki, to the podium for some brief remarks.
Thank you. Tough name. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here and helping us recognize the members of our department and our partner agencies. It's important we take time today and pause and recognize the great work and commitment that this group does today to protect the citizens of Newcastle County and our visitors. At this time, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our County Executive, Matthew Meyer.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to see everyone here today. It's amazing. The people that come from all walks of our county, all walks of life, find time on a Monday morning to come here and honor the best among us who are serving, giving every single day, even right now, across this county in uniform to make sure that we are all safe. So thank you for that. I particularly wanted to recognize several elected officials who made time to be with us today. The State Insurance Commissioner and former County Police Officer Trinity Navarro is here today. Recorder of Deeds, Mike Kozakowski, thank you for coming today. County Councilman from the great 7th District of Newcastle County, George Smiley, is with us today. And the state representative from the 16th District, also former County Police Officer Frank Cook, is here today. Thank you. Also with us today is the Chief Administrative Officer for Newcastle County, Vanessa Phillips. Chief of the County Police, Colonel Vaughn Bond. Chief of our Paramedic Service, Larry Tan. And Chief of Emergency Communications, Jeff Miller. It's been a great year for each of our public safety agencies. It's been a year when innovations have been introduced and there have been tremendous outcomes that benefit public safety. For the first time in a long time, our criminal investigations unit solved 100% of the homicides in 2018, which is really unusual. The national average is about 60%, about 6 in 10 homicides are solved. This year, thanks to the great work of our criminal investigation unit, we solved all 8 homicides. As Colonel Bond will be the first to point out, that's not necessarily something we should boast and brag about. We boast and brag when we have 0 homicides in a single year. But it's important to note, solving homicides is one step to creating a safer community. We've also introduced some tremendous technologies and invested in tremendous technologies. Technologies introduced through the people of the county police, county EMS, and county emergency communications. Our Hero Help program has been recognized nationally. I know we'll be hearing more about it a little bit later. It's been recognized nationally for its tremendous work with those facing substance abuse issues. The Police Connections Alliance is an extraordinarily innovative program created right here in county police that sends out mental health professionals from connections with our county police. We've been getting out of our cars, doing community policing like never before, and also I believe NICO was introduced in 2018. NICO, we have a lot of popular police officers. I don't know if any police officer is quite as popular as NICO. In 911, there's a national standard that 90% of 911 calls should be answered in 10 seconds or less. Very, very few departments across this country, respond to 911 calls that quickly. In 2016, we were averaging about 60% of 911 calls answered in 10 seconds or less. In 2018, we surpassed 90%, and right now we're at about 91.2% for the year. So hats off to the 911 staff. They also last year statewide introduced text to 911, and they've been doing tremendous work with the rave panic button so that public facilities, schools, hospitals, religious institutions, community centers, shopping malls are best equipped if there's an active shooter or any kind of emergency situation to make sure communications are seamless. In our paramedics, we had a lot of struggle last year when we looked at the budget. The number of calls our paramedics have seen in the last 13 years increased from about 25,000 calls a year to now we're over 37,000 calls a year. At the same time, our staffing has been kept constant. Thanks to the support of the state legislature, county council, we are now running our largest and most diverse paramedic class in history. We're starting, I think, next week, our largest and most diverse paramedic class in history. Since I came into office just a little over 2 years ago, over 100 individuals have been saved when they went into cardiac arrest. Their heart stopped beating when 911 is called, and because of the great training of our paramedics, of our fire service, and of our 911 staff, over 100 individuals, their lives have been saved, and I know we're going to hear a bit about that today. So we're doing great. Hats off to every individual in the room who serves as a first responder. You are truly out there keeping us safe every single day. The public realizes that, I realize that, and this is just a small token for us to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Executive Meyer. I'm going to need you to come back up here, though.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. Yep, let's do. So I'd like to call the executive, the acting director, and Colonel Vaughn Bond up front for the awards for the Division of Police. When I call your name, if you could please come forward, stand and face the audience while your accomplishment is being read. The first officer is Officer Tyler Knotts. On July 21st, 2018, Officer Knotts responded to Robert Street in Claymont, Delaware in reference to a subject unlawfully entering the residence and violating a no-contact order with his ex-girlfriend. It was learned that the suspect had stabbed himself and made statements that he wanted the police to kill him prior to fleeing the residence. Officer Knotts was able to make phone contact with the suspect, who advised that he was on his way to Maryland. However, through Officer Knotts' investigation, it was revealed that he was actually traveled north and was in Pennsylvania. Officer Knotts was able to dupe the suspect into thinking that the police were no longer at the residence, thereby convincing him to return. Upon the suspect's arrival, he resisted arrest but was taken into custody after a brief struggle with officers and a police canine. The suspect was taken to the hospital for a mental health evaluation and subsequently charged with burglary. For his actions, Officer Knotts is awarded a certificate of appreciation. Detective Brian Shahan. Detective Shahan had the opportunity to attend a cold case homicide conference where he learned of a successful program that was implemented in the state of Connecticut. Law enforcement agencies in Connecticut introduced playing cards into the prison system that contained information on unsolved homicides. After learning of the program's success, he brought the idea back to the Newcastle County Police. Detective Shahan worked tirelessly with the Delaware Department of Corrections, the Delaware State Police, Wilmington Police Department, and Delaware Crime Stoppers to gain support for this project. After several months of planning and working through the procedural issues with officials from these agencies, the program was ultimately adopted and implemented statewide. A vendor was selected to produce and print the cards, and they were distributed within the Delaware prison system beginning in September of 2018. Information has already been obtained on several unsolved cases as a result of this program, indicating that this program will be a great success. For his initiative, Detective Shahan is awarded a certificate of appreciation. Officer First Class Kevin Maloney. On August 17, 2018, Officer Maloney responded to a shooting involving an AR-15 rifle on Revelle Street in Newcastle. Upon arrival, Officer Maloney observed a male subject appear from behind a fence and enter a white SUV that was parked suspiciously in the area. Officer Maloney followed the vehicle while waiting until assisting officers arrived at his location. Officers initiated a traffic stop, at which point the vehicle fled and a vehicle pursuit ensued. Minutes later, the vehicle became disabled, and 2 suspects were ultimately taken into custody. These subjects were found to be in possession of an AR-15 rifle. There had been conflicting witness accounts of the suspect's vehicle, but due to Officer Maloney's keen observation, he stopped the suspects responsible for the shooting, got a firearm off the street, and prevented further violence. For his quick action, Officer Maloney is awarded a Commendation of Merit. Master Corporal Keith Godier and Officer First Class Esteban Ruiz Ramirez. On July 8, 2018, the Newcastle County maintenance shed located on Alapocas Drive was burglarized. The suspects caused approximately $10,000 in damage to Newcastle County vehicles, including spray painting of anti-police sayings on the vehicles. Master Corporal Godier and Officer First Class Ruiz Ramirez responded to process the scene. 57 items of evidence were collected to include latent fingerprints, DNA, and over 100 photographs. The fingerprints collected from the scene by Corporal Godier and Officer Ruiz Ramirez were entered into the automated fingerprint identification system, where they received a positive match for 2 suspects. Based upon this information, arrest warrants were obtained, and the suspects were apprehended. The extensive processing of the scene for latent fingerprints resulted in the arrest of the suspects and a successful conclusion to this investigation. For their skill and attention to detail, Master Corporal Keith Godier and Officer First Class Esteban Ruiz Ramirez are awarded a Certificate of Appreciation. Senior Corporal Corey Tanier and Officer First Class Robert Grover. On July 7, 2018, Senior Corporal Tanier and Officer First Class Grover were dispatched to the area of East Richards Lane in Newark in reference to a missing 7-year-old semi-verbal autistic child. The child's mother reported that the missing child was last observed inside the residence approximately 15 minutes prior to calling the police. The officers were advised that the child liked the woods and believed that he might have taken off into the wooded area behind the residence. Officer First Class Grover arrived at the residence first and observed small footprints in the grass just outside the fence line. Senior Corporal Tanier, his canine partner Ace, and Officer First Class Grover began a canine track into the large wooded area between Richards Lane and Old Coach Road. After tracking for approximately 7 minutes, they came upon the child's sneakers. They tracked from the shoes onto a path through the woods, heading towards Polly Drummond Hill Road, where they were able to locate the child near a body of water. The child, who had taken off all of his clothing, was at first hesitant to respond to the officers. Senior Corporal Tanier allowed him to pet his canine partner Ace, and after getting the child dressed, Officer Grover gave him a piggyback ride out of the woods. For their quick actions, Senior Corporal Tanier and Officer Grover awarded a Certificate of Appreciation. The Criminal Investigations Unit will be represented by Lieutenant Michael Bradshaw. The Criminal Investigations Unit had a great deal of success in 2018. This success is attributed to the hard work of the detectives and the supervisors within the unit. Although cases are assigned to an individual lead detective, collaboration within the unit is key to solving cases. In 2018, the Homicide Squad had a 100% clearance rate. This is compared to the national average of 60%. The dedicated Homicide Squad allowed for the Major Crime Squad to spend more time focusing on crimes such as robberies and non-fatal shootings. In 2018, there were 132 robbery incidents reported to the Newcastle County Police Department, with a clearance rate of 40%, compared to the national average of 30%. The Property Crimes Initiative continued to show great success in 2018 and has resulted in reported burglaries being reduced. As a result, reported burglaries were down 177 from the previous year. The burglary clearance rate in 2018 reached 40%, compared to a national average of just 13%. In March 2018, the agency procured technology that allows members of the Tech Crime Squad to access certain cellular phones that were previously inaccessible. As a result, the Tech Crime Squad executed a total of 732 cellular phone extractions. In 2018, the Tech Crime Squad handled a total of 1,983 cases. These cases originated out of all sections of the agency, as the Tech Crime Squad is called upon to provide support to any officer within the Newcastle County Police. In 2018, the Evidence Detection Squad logged a total of 1,367 cases, conducted 29,760 latent print comparisons, and generated 1,205 fingerprint hits. The use of the local DNA database has increased and started to prove successful. In 2018, 1,406 evidence swabs were received and processed. There was a total of 498 DNA hits received, which aided in 104 cases. The Special Investigation Squad was successful in apprehending a total of 76 wanted fugitives in 2018. The FBI task force continued the investigation into a murder that occurred in Elkton, Maryland, with ties to Delaware. To date, 7 defendants have been charged with various crimes referenced to that heinous crime of kidnapping, which resulted in death. Other significant cases that the CIU handled during the year was the arrest of a suspect for the serial kidnapping and rape cases in the Pike Creek area, the arrest of the suspects for a home invasion and rape that occurred in Hunter's Crossing Apartments, the arrest for a murder that occurred on Darley Road in 2016, and the sentencing of a suspect to life in prison for the kidnapping, rape, and attempted murder of a 4-year-old child. For their collective work, the members of the Criminal Investigation Unit are awarded the Distinguished Unit Citation. The Newcastle County Safe Streets Task Force, Senior Sergeant Brian Burke, Detective Bradley Landis, Officer First Class John Latwinick, Detective Andrew Rosario, Senior Probation Officer William DuPont, Senior Probation Officer Richard Negley, and Senior Probation Officer Ashton Ploblar. The Newcastle County Safe Streets Task Force is a joint effort between the Newcastle County Division of Police, the Delaware Department of Probation and Parole, and the Delaware Department of Juvenile Probation. They are tasked with monitoring Level 3 probationers, ensuring compliance to court sentences and probation stipulations. Throughout 2018, the task force conducted 1,442 curfew checks, 78 administrative searches, and 97 search warrants. In addition to apprehending 78 fugitives from justice, the task force arrested 227 suspects on new charges. Through their exceptional teamwork, tenacity, and investigative skill, the task force initiated countless investigations to some of our community's most violent offenders. Their tireless work included numerous drugs and weapons investigations. In total, throughout 2018, the Newcastle County Safe Streets Task Force seized a total of 279 grams of cocaine, 20 pounds of marijuana, 372 grams of methamphetamine, $204,000 in drug proceeds, and removed a total of 52 illegally possessed firearms from the streets, including several that have been stolen and connected to violent crimes. Because of their work, the task force has undoubtedly made our community safer. For their hard work, they are awarded the Distinguished Unit Citation. Detective Jonathan Adams and Detective Darryl Sandshrew. Detective Sandshrew couldn't be here today, but Detective Adams will accept his award on his behalf. In early March of 2018, Detective Adams initiated a sexual abuse investigation in which the victim disclosed during a forensic interview that they had observed inappropriate videos on a suspect's computer. Based upon information provided by the victim, Detective Adams obtained a search warrant for the suspect's residence. Detective Adams requested Detective Sandshrews' technical assistance in executing the search warrant. While executing this search warrant, Detective Sandshrew quickly ascertained that the suspect was actively deleting critical evidence from his computer. Detective Sandshrew immediately took measures to prevent the deletion and assisted with the seizure of hundreds of digital storage devices. Detective Sandshrew was able to identify both produced and downloaded child pornography on the seized devices. During the months that followed, Detective Sandshrew and Adams worked tirelessly and reviewed numerous images contained on the suspect's storage devices. Based on their review of the images, Detective Adams executed additional search warrant on the suspect's residence, where he located clothing that matched the viewed images and the victim's account of the abuse. Their exhaustive efforts resulted in the indictment of the suspect for numerous sexual offenses and shed light on the true nature of the crimes committed by the suspect. The suspect ultimately pled guilty to attempted rape first, sexual exploitation of a child, possession of child pornography, and the suspect is currently pending a sentence of 27 years to life. For their diligence in protecting our children, Detective Adams and Detective Sandshrew are awarded commendations of merit. Sergeant Charles Levy. During the 2018 calendar year, Sergeant Levy cleared the following complex and difficult cases while assigned to the Homicide Squad. On March 9th, the Newcastle County Police were dispatched to the unit block of Malvern Road for a shooting that had just occurred. Police learned that a 22-year-old male was shot while sitting in a vehicle. He was taken to an area hospital where he was pronounced deceased. Sergeant Levy was assigned as the CIO of this case. During the initial investigations, witness provided some partial information on those possibly involved, including a suspect vehicle description. One of the individuals allegedly involved was ultimately identified and apprehended later that day. After spending hours in the interview room, Sergeant Levy was able to garner a confession from this individual and identified 2 additional suspects. All 3 of the aforementioned individuals were charged and arrested with murder in the first degree. Evidence obtained during this investigation ultimately led Sergeant Levy to identify the person that had pulled the trigger in this case. After an extensive manhunt by the SIS and the FBI task force, the suspect was located hiding in Philadelphia. He was apprehended without incident and charged in this case. Ultimately, this case was only solved due to Sergeant Levy's persistence in the interview room, where he spent numerous hours garnering the truth from suspects who were extremely tough to interview. Throughout 2018, Sergeant Levy also diligently continued working on a series of high-profile, unsolved kidnapping and sexual assault robberies that occurred in the early part of 2017. The name of a potential suspect was provided to Sergeant Levy by the Delaware State Police. The suspect had been arrested in 2017 on several robberies of commercial businesses in Pennsylvania, and he was also a suspect in several cases to include a robbery and sexual assault that occurred in Delaware State Police jurisdiction. Sergeant Levy then began further investigative efforts, including search warrants, cellular phone examinations, and cellular location analysis, which ultimately placed the suspect at the crime scenes in Newcastle County. Sergeant Levy also researched, sought out, and used new advanced DNA testing through a private lab to link evidence previously recovered from the suspect to one of the victims of these crimes. Based on his comprehensive investigation, Sergeant Levy was ultimately able to charge the suspect in 2018 with these heinous acts that instilled fear and caused lingering public alarm in our communities. Also in 2018, Sergeant Levy continued to work on a cold case homicide that occurred in December 2016. In this case, the victim was shot to death in the community off Darryl Road. The victim's vehicle was later found in an abandoned field several miles away. The initial crime scene examination revealed that the perpetrator had attempted to destroy evidence to thwart the investigation. During the initial crime scene processing, evidence was located at the crime scene that contained an unknown male DNA profile. This evidence was believed to have been discarded by the perpetrator of this crime. After months of investigation and exhausting all leads, the case went cold. Sergeant Levy refused to give up and learned of a new investigative technique successfully being used in cold cases. Sergeant Levy decided to contact a genetic genealogy company to analyze the DNA sample from this crime scene further. The company was able to provide a sketch of the potential suspect based on a DNA evidence left at the scene. They further provided a name of someone who would potentially be a match for this DNA left at the scene based on scientific genealogical research. Armed with this information, Sergeant Levy obtained search warrants for cell locations. Based upon phone records, Sergeant Levy was able to put the suspect and an associate at the scene of the crime. Sergeant Levy was also able to link the suspect to phone records indicating that the suspect lured the victim to the crime scene. The suspect was ultimately arrested and charged with murder in the first degree and other related charges. His undaunted efforts on these cases truly highlight Sergeant Levy's remarkable skill set as a criminal investigator and solidify his overwhelming commitment to the citizens of Newcastle County and the Division of Police. Without his tenacious efforts, these cases would have likely remained unsolved. Sergeant Levy is awarded the Chief of Police Award. Every year, the Wilmington Kiwanis Club acknowledges a Newcastle County police officer for outstanding accomplishments that occur within each service quarter. This morning, I would like to call Ruth Bartholomew of the Wilmington Kiwanis Club to the podium to present the Kiwanis Awards for the second 2 quarters of 2018, as well as the annual Kiwanis Award.
Good morning. There are a few familiar faces here, as our annual awards were just presented last week, Chief Tan and Matt among them. And I would like to just acknowledge this morning my fellow Kiwanian Dave Wilson. Would you please stand? Dave, oh, he's over there taking pictures. He's the wind beneath our wings at the Kiwanis Club when it comes to saying thank you and acknowledging our first responders, and we really appreciate his hard work. I'm always humbled to stand in the presence of people such as yourselves. You know, the vast majority of us in the general public get up in the morning and go about our daily business. And unless we happen to see flashing lights on the side of the road or pull over to allow an ambulance or fire truck to pass by, we don't give a lot of thought to the vast majority of public safety, law enforcement, EMTs, and others who are out there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, interceding for us so that we can go to work, keep that dentist appointment, pick up some groceries, take our children to the park in relative safety and peace of mind because of everything that you do. And some of it is remarkable, and we really do appreciate you so very much. I'm honored to be able to present these acknowledgments today. First of all, to Master Corporal Darryl Sandshrew. Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to Master Corporal Darryl Sandshrew, Police Officer of the Quarter Award for the 3rd quarter 2018 for outstanding service to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware.
He's not here.
He's not here. Jonathan Adams. The Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to Jonathan Adams, Police Officer of the Quarter Award, 3rd quarter 2018, for outstanding service to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware. To Sergeant Charles Levy. The Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to Sergeant Charles Levy, Police Officer of the Quarter Award, 4th quarter 2018, for outstanding service to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware. And the Police Officer of the Year, Sergeant Charles Levy, the Wilmington Kiwanis Club. And I just want to say that was a very impressive presentation of this man and his work. The Wilmington Kiwanis Club presents to Sergeant Charles Levy, Police Officer of the Year 2018, for outstanding service to the citizens of Newcastle County, Delaware.
We would like to thank Ruth and the entire Wilmington Kiwanis Club for presenting these awards to the department. And that concludes the presentation of awards for the Division of Police. Colonel Bonds, you can have your seat. Now I'd like to call the Division of Emergency Medical Services for the presentation of their awards.
Thank you. For our first recognition, as a little aside, but most of these people worked last night and worked tonight, so might have a small showing of the people. I know certainly one person's here, but I'm going to read the names and we'll go through so you all understand the situation these people faced. Lieutenant Michael Nichols, Sergeant Richard Moorman, Paramedic Christopher Collins, Paramedic Michelle Hamrick. Wonderful voice. Thank you, Michelle. Paramedic Matthew Herman, Paramedic Oliver Coker, Paramedic Dale Rollins, and Paramedic Hector Romero. On July 21st, 2018, at approximately 1:17 a.m., units were dispatched to the intersection of Namens Road at Ebright Road for a motor vehicle crash with entrapment. First arriving units noted that the crash involved an SUV, a sedan, and a motorcycle. A total of 6 critically injured patients were on the scene who required rapid, intensive treatment. Due to the number of patients and the nature of their injuries, 3 paramedic units, a paramedic sergeant, paramedic lieutenant, and a helicopter were dispatched to the scene. When the first paramedic units arrived, they found that one subject had been ejected from the SUV and the motorcyclist had been thrown from his vehicle. Lieutenant Nichols assumed EMS command of the incident while Sergeant Mormon began to triage the patients, making sure the most critically injured were transported first. Whereas most of these patients would usually have required 2 paramedics, due to the large number of patients, all paramedics involved were tasked with treating these critically injured patients as the sole advanced life support provider with the assistance of a fire company EMT. All the patients were expeditiously treated and transported to the hospital in an efficient manner. For their teamwork under difficult circumstances, these paramedics are being awarded a unit letter of commendation. Lieutenant Lee Morris, Senior Corporal Daniel Pinero, Senior Corporal Kenneth Sliney, Paramedic First Class Patrick O'Boyle, Paramedic First Class Jessica Gurgic, Paramedic William Doan, and Paramedic Mary Kate Sellner. On August 18, 2018, at 10:32 p.m., a motor vehicle crash was reported at the intersection of Salem Church Road and Deasy Drive. Initial reports from bystanders were unclear as to what had transpired. As further information was gathered, it became clear that a serious crash had occurred and involved multiple patients with a vehicle overturned and persons heavily trapped in a vehicle. Paramedic Doan had been closely monitoring the evolving event on the radio and computer-aided dispatch system, moving his unit towards the crash prior to the significance of the event being known. A total of 2 paramedic units, a single paramedic responder, a paramedic sergeant, and a paramedic lieutenant made the response. As a member of the first arriving paramedic unit, Doan immediately began to triage the critically injured patients, ensuring that life-saving treatment was prioritized and rapidly initiated. The arriving paramedics were assigned patients for treatment and transport. A total of 3 extremely critical patients and 1 minorly injured patient were extricated and transported to the Christiana Hospital. Paramedic Doan's actions were recognized by the fire company leadership and his peers on the scene. For their coordinated delivery of advanced life support clinical care to critically injured and trapped patients, this group is receiving a unit letter of citation. For his outstanding delivery of emergency medical services and efforts, Paramedic Doan is being awarded a Commendation of Merit. Senior Lieutenant Joseph Dudley, Operations Support Technician Kenneth Phibbs. The Emergency Medical Services Division has an EMS command post vehicle known as MedCom that frequently provides to be an instrumental asset during large-scale events. This specialized piece of equipment requires training and practice to operate and put into operation. When the need for MedCom arises, there is little to no notice, and it occurs at all hours of the day and in all weather conditions. The Department of Public Safety would like to recognize Senior Lieutenant Joseph Dudley and Operations Support Technician Kenneth Phibbs for their dedication to the maintenance and operation of MedCom whenever it is needed. Thank you. Joseph Leonetti and Chief Scott Bundick from St. Francis Healthcare. St. Francis Healthcare has been playing an important role in the health and safety of all emergency personnel who respond on major fire incidents in Newcastle County. They contribute a rehabilitation unit that provides a temperature-controlled environment, hydration, and nutrition to those often involved in strenuous activities. This service is provided 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, regardless of weather conditions. the Newcastle County Department of Public Safety would like to recognize St. Francis Healthcare for their ongoing support. Thank you. That concludes the Emergency Medical Services Division. And call on Emergency Communications.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Fisher, Assistant Platoon Leader in the 911 Center, and I'll be presenting the awards for the Emergency Communications Division today. At this time, I'd like to call Chief Miller, who's already up here. When I call your name to receive an award, please respond to the front of the room and to my right. Assistant Platoon Leader for Fire Medical, Robert Kerr. Telecommunicators, Richard Haas and Anthony Fasciola. On July 6th, 2018, at approximately 15:46 hours, information was received into the 911 Center of a motor vehicle accident with a rollover on Route 1 northbound in the area of Fieldsboro Road. A passing firefighter reported the need for 3 medic units and at least 2 heavy rescue units due to the entrapment of at least 6 individuals, several of which appeared to be in grave condition. Several fire and EMS units were dispatched, as well as Kent County paramedics, 5 additional BLS units, and 3 helicopters. Fire and EMS units arrived on scene to find 9 total victims, 5 of which had sadly succumbed to their injuries. 2 priority victims were transported by air and 2 patients by ground unit. The stressful conditions of this incident were handled professionally and efficiently by those fire board dispatchers. For that reason, they have earned the Critical Incident Award today. I'd now like to call Public Safety Operator Victoria Mcconnell. On August 17th, 2018, at approximately 20:56 hours, PSO Mcconnell took a 911 call from a woman who initially was reporting a group of people that were at the residence wanting to fight her daughter. While processing the call, the incident quickly escalated to a shots fired at the residence. The caller became extremely distraught as she was trying to get her daughter to return inside the residence. PSO Mcconnell remained calm and professional, which resulted in obtaining vital information related to the suspects, who were later apprehended after a short pursuit. The shooters and their weapons were taken into police custody. PSO Mcconnell's actions helped result in the positive outcome of this incident, and for this she has earned the Impact Award today. I'd now like to call telecommunicators Wally Poppy, Richard Haas, Brandon Johnson, and Anthony Fasciola with the Fire and Medical Department. On the morning of Sunday, September 23rd, 2018, at 6:06 hours, the 911 Center received a call for a trash can on fire outside of the 2900 block of Squirrel Drive in Foxfront Apartments. Additional calls were received that the entire back of the building was affected at around 6:13 hours. Station 12 was initially dispatched for the call, and once additional information was received, the alarm was upgraded to a multi-residential structure fire. Engine 12 arrived at the scene within 4 minutes and reported that the 3-story wood frame apartment building had fire showing. Shortly thereafter, a second, third, and then a fourth alarm was requested by 7:02 hours. During this incident, the staff of the Fireboard D and B shifts worked effortlessly, not only handling the additional alarms, multiple cover assignments, phone and paging notifications, but all of the ongoing EMS runs during this time frame. Due to the team effort, they are being awarded the unit citation. I'd now like to call Assistant Platoon Leader, Fire Medical, Robert Kerr, as well as Scott Dunkelberger. Telecommunicators with Fire Medical, Robert Snyder, Wally Poppy, Richard Haas, Brandon Johnson, and Anthony Fasciola. On Monday, November 5th, 2018, D Squad Fire Board personnel consisting of Supervisor Robert Kerr and Fire Board dispatchers Richard Haas, Anthony Fasciola, Brandon Johnson, and Robert Snyder have been working on a 5-alarm fire at Willie Farms on DuPont Parkway in Townsend since 2:20 hours. During that time frame, fire units from almost all of Newcastle County, along with numerous companies from 8 surrounding counties, assisted in the fire scene and provided coverage in the MOT area. The oncoming shift, C Squad, consisting of Supervisor Scott Dunkelberger, Fire Board dispatchers Wally Poppy, and several others who couldn't be here today, were able to relieve some responsibilities of the night shift operations of the different channels. Unfortunately, there were 2 firefighters injured during this incident, but the fire scene was finally placed under control at 7:17 hours after almost 5 hours. C Shift continued functioning through the aftermath by assisting FieldCom and coordinating throughout the day, with multiple fire stations having cover-ups from their several different states. Their incredible teamwork amongst 2 different squads and the efforts of multiple agencies have earned them the unit citation for this incident. At this time, I'd like to call Public Safety Operators Sherita, Wilmore, and Victoria Mcconnell from the room. On November 27th, 2018, at approximately 0900 hours, the 911 Center received several hang-up calls from the Fulton Bank in Middletown. PSO Wilmore then received a call from an employee at the bank reporting a robbery with a gun. Sherita obtained crucial information from them, including a detailed suspect and vehicle description. At the same time, dispatchers in RECOM were making contact with CENTCOM in an effort to get additional units from the state police. PSO Mcconnell was simultaneously relaying GPS updates to RECOM while on the phone with the tracking company. All necessary information was quickly relayed to responding units. After arriving on scene, units from various agencies converged on a mutual aid channel to be monitored by RECOM. A perimeter was set up and a canine track was conducted. The suspect was quickly apprehended and taken into custody. The collaborative effort of the public safety operators and dispatchers helped to bring this incident to a positive ending. Because of their efforts, they have earned the Critical Incident Award today. I'd now like to call telecommunicator police Ebony Richardson, public safety operators Natalie Whiff and Stacy Gilbert, and Delaware State Police telecommunicator Lawrence Parker. On December 21st, 2018, at approximately 20:48 hours, the 911 Center began receiving calls reporting a shooting at the Christiana Mall. Patrol units were immediately dispatched to the mall for what was believed to be an active shooter situation. Initial reports from units on scene were that the shooter had fled on foot through the food court after firing several rounds inside the mall. Numerous police and fire department units responded from multiple agencies, while the communications personnel from Newcastle County and Delaware State Police worked tirelessly behind the scenes, all the while updating the units of any additional information being reported by civilians in the area. From the onset of this incident until approximately 2300 hours, the 911 Center received 466 911 calls, 457 administrative calls, and 4 text to 911 messages. This was a 118% increase in call volume in comparison to the previous week at that same time. For their incredible efforts during a very stressful situation, these individuals are receiving the Critical Incident Award today. I'd now like to call telecommunicator paramedical Robert Snyder and Richard Haas. These individuals are being recognized for their efforts in participating with the Command Post Work Group, supporting the needs of our FieldCom 1 and FieldCom 2 mobile communications vehicles. The dedication required is to train, maintain, and support the ongoing technology improvements, which are crucial to the mobile command post unit's success while supporting our field responders' mission to maintain a successful resolve to the many types of situations these vehicles and personnel respond to, including hazmat incidents, multiple alarm fires, special operations for police, and public relations outreach, just to name a few. The County Executive, Acting Director of Public Safety, and Chief of Emergency Communications are recognizing your efforts to provide exceptional service to our citizens and all the field responders you support each and every day with a certificate of appreciation.
Assistant Platoon Leader Jamie Fisher. On July 1st, 2018 at 17:01 hours, Jamie Fisher was tasked with pinging the phone of an individual believed to be in the company of a missing juvenile. The results of the ping showed a location in Earlville, Maryland, in a cafe located on a crowded beach. Fisher then contacted the cafe, speaking to the manager, and was able to obtain a phone number to a security officer in the beach area. Assistant Platoon Leader Fisher then began sending information to the security officer's phone to include possible vehicle description and pictures of a missing child. This resulted in locating the individual's vehicle in the parking lot, as well as the missing child, who was later returned to their parents unharmed. Without Assistant Platoon Leader Jamie Fisher's extra effort during this incident, the outcome could have been very different. For this reason, she is receiving the Critical Incident Award. Director.
At this time, I have a special award, a Director's Award. I'd like to call to the center, Major Rob McLucas, please. On behalf of Newcastle County Department of Public Safety, we'd like to commend Major Robert McLucas for his remarkable contribution to the Hero Health program. Major McLucas has been critical to the design and development of the Hero Health program. Thanks to his leadership and vision, the Hero Health program has developed significantly for the following reasons. To date, 52 outreach initiatives have resulted in successful Hero Health initiatives and referrals of families and loved ones. As of February 2019, there have been 240 individuals successfully admitted to the Hero Health program. Countless others have also not met the admission criteria, but have been provided assistance. 95 individuals have been trained in the safe use of Narcan and provided free kits for their use. In recognition of the Hero Health program as a national model, its demonstrated effectiveness in improving the quality of life for all Delawareans impacted by the addiction epidemic can be directly attributed to the tireless dedication and commitment for public service. For that reason, you're being awarded the Director's Award.
In addition, my predecessor created something called the County Executives Award. He only gave it away once to Colonel Setting, and this is only the second opportunity I have to give it away. I give it away to any citizen that provides an extraordinary service to the people of this county, and the service that Major McLucas has provided over the past 2-3 years, making this your passion, enabling literally hundreds to access treatment who desperately need it. You certainly are deserving of the County Executive Award. So congratulations.
And that concludes the presentation of today's awards. Thank you, oh, no.
That's all right. Need you three up there, so. Chief Maloney. I'm Dave Carpenter, Coordinator, Merchant Manager for Newcastle County. We have one incident to present awards on tonight, and this morning. Can I have OEM planner Chris Hodgson, representing the Holloway Terrace Fire Company, Deputy Chief Rob Snyder. I don't think he was quick enough to change uniforms, but. From DelDOT, Chief Safety Officer Jerry Nagitsi. Yeah. And I don't believe they're here this afternoon. Telecommunicators John Noonan and telecommunicator Terry Clark. Thank you. It's good to see everybody still smiling despite their busted brackets and the fact that Villanova did not make it to the Sweet 16. On November 25th, 2018, at approximately 4:20 p.m., Holloway Terrace Fire Company was alerted by the 911 center to an automatic fire alarm at 315 Cherry Lane, the Croda Atlas plant. Upon arrival, about 5 minutes later of the first unit, they were advised of a leak in the ethylene oxide unit. An immediate request to upgrade the incident was made, along with traffic control measures. Deputy Chief Rob Snyder arrived and took command. Over the next several hours, almost 8 hours, 8+ hours, the incident progressed and was controlled, and measures were taken to mitigate the incident. For their actions on that afternoon and evening for more than 8 hours, Holloway Terrace Fire Company, with Deputy Chief Snyder in the lead, provided overall incident command and leadership for the response efforts on the scene in coordination and collaboration with Croda management. DENREC Emergency Response, DelDOT provided traffic control measures with Chief Officer Jerry Nagitski as the lead, in coordination also with the Delaware River and Bay Authority, additional fire mutual aid companies, private contractors, Newcastle County EMS, Newcastle County 911, and in addition, OEM planner Chris Hodgson provided coordination liaison to DelDOT and other agencies, and also initiated protective action notifications to the community. For this effort, these members and the fire company of the Holloway Terrace is presented with a letter of commendation. Thanks, sir. Now you may conclude the awards.
At this time, I'd like to call Father McVoy for the benediction.
Let us pray. Father, we are so blessed to have men and women who work so diligently for our safety and well-being here in Newcastle County. Lord, we ask you to continue to keep them in your care, because we give them thanks because of their sacrifice and their service. May they continue to give us strength as they represent us, protect us, and guide us as they serve this county. We ask this through our prayer. Amen.
On behalf of the entire Department of Public Safety, I would like to thank everyone for their attendance today, and again, congratulate the award recipients for their accomplishments. I invite everyone to stay and join us for some light refreshments. Thank you all for coming.